Welcome behind the scenes at the next Digital Battlefield Tours production. I'm recording in these woods because this was the assembly area for British forces about to take part in Operation Allen on the 22nd of October 1944. And this will be the subject of my next documentary. In fact, it is Operation Allen, technically speaking, and I am going to cover the larger operational picture. Not just Allen, which was taking the Dutch town of s-Hertogenbosch, which is already quite an objective, but also its place in the larger Operation Pheasant, which brings us to the immediate post-Market Garden period, but more on that in the final video. In fact, the main video is going to be much more focused on a very specific action, which was launched out of these woods into the open fields beyond, into the German defensive lines towards the village of Doornhoek, which is a small village on the eastern approaches of Den Bosch. And in fact, we're going to be looking at a specific tank troop and the junior officer who was leading it, a lieutenant. And their battle took place just outside these woods at a cluster of buildings along a little creek known as Laar. The relevant area is in about a football field or two. And I've been researching it for over a year to really try and reconstruct it in all possible detail, including also the post-war memoir written by this tank troop leader. So it's going to be a bit like my Webster's War trilogy that I made a few years ago, where I followed an American paratrooper during Market Garden, but now we'll be following in the footsteps, or in the tracks more appropriately, of this lieutenant who was leading a troop of Cromwells in the 7th Armoured Division. So that's the Desert Rats, although they had been out of the desert for a while by now, fighting in Normandy and then up into the Netherlands in 1944. And it's also the first time we'll be looking at the Desert Rats. I've previously covered other British armoured units, the 15th, 19th Hussars, quite extensively. But now we'll be looking at the Desert Rats and then specifically the 8th Hussars. And then all the way down to this troop of 3 tanks. So the way I'm going to set up the video, and I have the script already written out for the most part, is that I'll be reading the relevant part from this book. I won't spoil just yet who it is, but it's a great detailed narrative account, and I'm gonna weave in different chapters highlighting certain interesting background parts that are mentioned in this account, and I can expand on in more detail. I have been researching the subject of British armor for a few years now. I've written a book on it, which will be out in September this year. And this battle I've been researching for over a year. So what I'm going to do is take his account of the relevant pages here and then use that as a central thread. And then every paragraph or so I'm going to weave in like a chapter on like the larger operational background, the combined arms, the division, the doctrine behind it, but also the very detailed day-to-day stuff that this lieutenant was dealing with. So troop tactics, who his troop was, his squadron leader, his fellow troop leaders, the men in his tank, but also things like the radio communications, the tactics, the firepower, but also what driving a tank was like. And I've collected all kinds of sources and manuals, and for the reconstruction that I'm gonna use the detailed aerial photographs and maps, and I've already scouted out most of the filming locations, which is what I'm doing today. It is now August, and I've already started filming a little bit. Although one of the issues that I've ran into in previous productions as well is there's in this part of the Netherlands, in this time of the year, there's a lot of corn, and not like the small stuff, but like the 3-meter tall, thick as a brick wall corn. So I'm already recording now in August, but I think the final recording is going to be a bit later in September or maybe October, which is actually quite convenient because that's when the battle happened. So with a bit of luck, if I do most of the filming in October, then we'll be closer to the actual climate that it was back then as well, which means cold and rainy and muddy, so that's what it is. But that mostly happens just outside these woods, which is where most of the filming and the actual battlefield tour is going to take place. Like I said, these woods were the assembly area where the 1st 5th Battalion of the Queen's Regiment, that's part of the infantry component of the 7th Armoured Division, they were attacking out of these woods. And the tank unit that we'll be following was in direct support to them. They were actually advancing as a screen in front. So that's on regarding doctrine, more of a return to the classical cruiser role, which again is going to be one of the chapters we'll be discussing. And there were lots of other arms as well. So it wasn't the infantry and the Cromwells, which were both from the 7th Armoured, but there was plenty of artillery, there were air attacks by Typhoons, and there were other tanks as well, including Churchill Crocodiles. Those were the flamethrowers. They made a big impression on the German defenders. And the Sherman mine flailing tanks as well. So this is a great case study, not just in what it's like to command a troop of 3 Cromwells, but also what it was like being part of this bigger, methodical, combined arms battle that the British were really good at by this point in the war. So that is something I'll be working on for the coming period, and then hopefully release it on the channel sometime later this year. There's another project coming earlier, so you can look forward to that. And yeah, I've got plenty of filming to do, so I'll get back to it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the main production once it's finished and uploaded on Digital Battlefield Tours.